and welcome to another adventure. I've been wanting to do a review of my Honda CRF 450L for a while now, mainly because it's one of the most misunderstood trail bikes on the market, but also because I absolutely love the bike and I wanted to tell you why. The CRF 450L was released in 2019 and the bike is essentially a detuned and modified version of the CRF 450R, Honda's championship winning motocross bike. Now I think Honda were really clever with the 450L because they went for a corner of the market it seemed other manufacturers had left behind, that being the dual sport segment. So Honda had the R version, the MX bike, and the X version, the Enduro bike, and then came the L version, the dual sport bike. Unlike the X though, the 450L has a 6-speed box, high capacity stator and a longer swing arm to help improve road manners. It keeps the same show of suspension as the championship winning MX bike with some slight changes to the internals. It also came with a lithium battery, LED lights, decent indicators, and Honda redesigned the crank to give it more inertia than the X version, making it more user-friendly in technical and tight situations. It also came with a radiator fan, Renthal handlebars, and rather cool-looking DID rims. So with a spec sheet like that, and the bike looking as good as it does, how comes Honda didn't sell a shed load of these bikes in the UK? Well, the answer to that I think is twofold. Firstly, to make it emissions compliant, the bike left the showroom with only 27 horsepower, and for a lot of people that just wasn't enough. Secondly, Honda got it wrong with the naming of the bike. They should have called it the CRF 450RL. Honda has two other trail bikes, those being the 250 and 300Ls. Now these are completely different gravy to the 450. The 450 is based on a championship winning motocross bike. The 250 and 300 have got road engines, very poor suspension, a steel frame, basic componentry. Yes, they are aimed at a completely different segment of the market and they're great bikes, but everyone assumed that the 450L was just a big brother to the 250 and 300, and this obviously put people off buying the bike because they wanted something a bit more. Honda has seen the error of its ways now and have renamed the bikes. So you have the CRF 450R, their motocross bike, the RX, their enduro bike, and the RL, their dual sport bike. So why did I buy a CRF 450L? Well, I fully subscribe to the idea that light is right, and I really wanted a lightweight adventure bike, so bike and luggage weighing in at under 145 kilos. This I felt was a suitable weight for solo travelling and being able to pick up the bike if I was out on my own. I did look at the AJP PR7 and the Husky 701, but they were probably going to be too heavy for what I wanted, and I liked the idea of having a Honda and the bomb-proof reliability which comes with it. Also, most importantly, I thought the 450L just looked amazing. I'd seen a few of them in US forums with decal kits and aftermarket exhausts, and they just looked the nuts. Crucially, I knew, having done a fair bit of research, that all of the bike's particular issues could be easily sorted with some aftermarket parts. This definitely wasn't a case of turning a sow's ear into a silk purse, more turning a silk purse into the badass wallet it was always meant to be. Since buying my 450L, I've changed quite a few bits, but if you're only going to change one thing on this bike, then it has to be the ECU. The ECU is the brain of the bike. It controls everything with regards to power and how the engine runs and handles. So the obvious thing to do is to change it. I went for the Vortex ECU. It's one of the most common out there, but there are other options. The Vortex ECU absolutely transforms the bike. It gives it so much more torque and power, and also sorts out those slow speed stalling issues that some people complain about when they buy the standard bike. Along with changing the ECU, I also changed the end can and the header pipe. I went for the FMF PowerCore 4, and it's the standard X header pipe. So that's the header pipe off the X450 Enduro bike. It works perfectly with the FMF PowerCore 4, and the increased torque you get on the bike is unbelievable. It really does pull like a train, and you save about 3.5 kilos in the process. It probably is slightly noisier than I would like, but I think the trade-offs, and with sensible riding, I don't think the noise issue is too much of a problem. I think one of the best parts that I've fitted to my bike is the Adventure Spec mini fairing. It's absolutely brilliant. I just think it's a must fit if you get one of these bikes. It gives you somewhere to put a power point, so it's already pre-drilled and prepared to nicely just slot in a little USB socket, which easily connects up to the accessory socket on the bike. You can put the phone dead central, which makes navigation easy, and it's not there on your handlebars cluttering up your cockpit, which I absolutely hate. Nothing worse than a cluttered cockpit. I've also added a little bit of Perspex to mine, just to give me a little bit more protection on the road, and it does keep the weather off the phone if it is raining. It's certainly worth doing, I think, and a far cheaper option than fitting something like the Rebel X Rally Kit. Although they do look really, really cool, they're not cheap. So just changing a little bit of Perspex every time I have a little tumble and break it, much more of a cheaper option. I've also fitted the IMS tank, which is another sort of no-brainer really. It just gives you a little bit more range. It takes you from about 7 litres to 11.5 litres, which for most people with average riding, that's going to get you up near 150 miles on a tank. So less of those fuel anxiety moments while you're out on the trail. It looks pretty good as well. It looks decent. It's practical. It's easy to fit, and I've had no issues with it since I put it on the bike. There are quite a few options when it comes to replacing the sump guard. I went for the Moose Racing Guard, which I've been very happy with. Again, it's easy to fit, and I just like the fact that it covers all the way back to the rear linkage on the rear suspension, which just gives me that peace of mind that I'm not going to bash that when tackling logs or rocks. I have changed the seat on my bike for the Acerbis aftermarket seat. It's pretty good. It looks nice, but it's not going to be as comfortable as the Seat Concept seat, but for 80 quid it's been a good upgrade. I have changed a few other little bits, like I've fitted some Zeta handguards, which have been great. I've also put some decals on the side panels, just so that when my luggage is on there it just rubs the decals and not the panels, because that is one downside to this bike, is that the plastics aren't cheap. I bought my Honda 450L as a lightweight adventure bike, which it absolutely is. It's proved to be brilliant at this task, such a great bike to ride, fantastic on the road, and even better off-road, so capable. But what I wasn't expecting when I bought this bike was how good it would be at all the other stuff. There's not much I haven't done with the bike since I've owned it. I've done quite a few rallies now, and it's proved to be a really, really capable and competitive bike. In fact, of the 3 rallies that I did last year, I won all of them in the trail bike category, and at the Rydale Rally on the Sunday I finished 13th overall out of about 180 competitors up against some pretty competitive bikes. So it just goes to prove that the 450L is such a capable and competitive bike. I've also done quite a few enduro fun days, and what this has proved to me is the bike is really good in those slow speed situations. So tight, twisty sections through the woods, getting over logs, all that sort of stuff which some people say is where the bike fails, it absolutely doesn't. But to achieve this and make the bike be this good at all this stuff, you have to change the ECU. You can't just go for the power-up kit which Honda released, because that doesn't solve the problems. You've just got to spend that little bit more cash and get the decent ECU, either be it the Vortex, AIM or Get version. In summary then, it's going to come as no surprise when I say I absolutely love this bike. I bought it as the ultimate lightweight adventure bike, and that it has absolutely proved to be. With a full tank of fuel in the IMS tank, the bike weighs approximately 132 kilos, which for me is super light. I'm always confident when I put the luggage on the bike and stick it on the back there. Because of that rear subframe, I know that the bike can handle it, and it just excels at being the ultimate adventure bike. Such a pleasure to ride, and be it adventure rides or just green laning or out on the trail, the bike is such an easy bike to live with. Simple things like having a keyed ignition and a steering lock for me are invaluable, because when you stop to get fuel, the last thing you want is to come out once you've paid and go back to your bike and someone's nicked it. I've thrown some serious abuse at this bike and it has coped with it flawlessly. In over 4,000 miles and a year and a half of racing and rallying and just doing everything I wanted to do on the bike, it has not let me down once. Nothing has failed. Everything has worked as it should. It's been brilliant. The CRF 450L is just one of those bikes that you could quite happily ride around the world on. It is not going to let you down. It is just totally bomb-proof. When I bought the bike, I never intended to start doing rallies and enduro fun days, but within a few rides it just became so obvious that this is such a capable bike, and it can do all of this stuff with ease, and in fact it can be really competitive. I loved doing the rallies last year, and I'm certainly going to do the whole of the British Championships this year. Such a great and fun series, but what makes it all the more enjoyable is the bike. Now, I haven't mentioned the service intervals because some people think that having to drop the oil every 600 miles is a bit of an issue. Well, firstly, there's no need to drop the oil every 600 miles. If you're just trail riding and adventure riding and just riding the bike steadily like you would on a normal basis, then dropping the oil every 1,500 miles is fine. If you look on YouTube, you'll see there's a few people that have had their oil analysed after 1,500 miles and it's well within spec, so you're not going to hurt the bike. Those service intervals that Honda give you are just overly conservative. And actually dropping the oil and sticking a new filter in, it only takes 10 minutes. And I actually quite enjoy doing it. I mean, I've come from a motocross background, so I'm used to that life. It doesn't bother me. It's not a problem. The only potential problem is where do I go next, because sadly the Honda CRF 450RL isn't available in the UK. And that's such a shame, because I genuinely believe this is one of the most, if not the most, capable and versatile dual sport bike on the market. But I'm not done with my bike yet. I'm certainly going to get a few more thousand miles out of it. And I tell you what, I am going to enjoy every single minute of it, because the Honda CRF 450L is such a brilliant bike. I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions about the bike, then stick them in the comments below and I'll try and answer them. There's bound to be a few things I've missed off, or particular things you want to ask me about the bike, so by all means stick a comment in. It'd be great if you'd consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. It always helps and it keeps me coming back bringing you more content. So I hope to see you back on the channel soon, or failing that, maybe I'll see you out on the trail riding your bike. Okay, bye for now. Thanks for watching.